Have you ever wondered what lurked beneath the glitz and glamour of Hollywood's golden age? Behind those dazzling smiles and perfect wardrobes, many of cinema's most beloved icons harbored surprisingly unkempt secrets. The stars who epitomized elegance on screen often led lives marked by unusual, even shocking, hygiene habits that would make today's publicists break into a cold sweat. From eccentric billionaires storing bodily fluids in jars, to platinum blonde bombshells whose signature hair emitted chemical odors detectable across studio lots. These celebrities proved that fame and cleanliness don't always go hand in hand. Welcome to Hollywood's Hidden Hygiene, where we peel back the polished veneer of Tinseltown to reveal the surprisingly dirty truth about 12 of its brightest stars. Legends whose contributions to cinema remain timeless, even if their personal habits would raise eyebrows both then and now. Howard Hughes. The peculiar decline of Howard Hughes stands as perhaps the most dramatic example of hygiene gone awry in Hollywood history. This brilliant filmmaker and aviation pioneer began his career as an immaculately dressed business titan, renowned for his meticulous appearance and exacting standards. Productions like Hell's Angels and The Outlaw showcased his visionary approach to filmmaking, while his aviation achievements broke world records. Yet beneath this exterior of accomplishment lurked increasingly troubling behaviors that would eventually consume him. By the 1950s, Hughes had retreated into a world defined by pathological fear of contamination. According to biographer Donald Bartlett, Hughes would instruct his staff to wrap his utensils in paper tissue and cellophane, using up to 15 layers before he would touch them. His once commanding physical presence deteriorated as he refused to cut his hair or nails, with associates reporting his fingernails reached lengths of several inches. In Hughes's final decade, his Las Vegas penthouse became essentially a quarantine zone. Medical records obtained after his death revealed he hadn't bathed in years, with his skin developing bed sores that penetrated to the bone. Most disturbing were the rows of milk bottles filled with urine that lined his room, which he considered more sanitary than using toilets. Former aide Robert Mayhew testified that Hughes would sit naked in his chair, using a pink hotel napkin as his only covering, watching movies continuously while surrounded by these makeshift waste containers. When Hughes died in 1976, en route to medical treatment, his 6 feet 4 inch frame weighed only 90 pounds. His once handsome features unrecognizable beneath matted hair and an overgrown beard. Fingerprints were required to confirm his identity, a grim epilogue to a life that had once epitomized Hollywood success and innovation. Jean Harlow. Dazzling audiences with her magnetic screen presence, Jean Harlow's signature platinum blonde locks came at a staggering physical cost few fans ever realized. The starlet endured weekly torturous hair treatments that would be considered chemical assault by today's standards. Her hairdresser, Alfred Pagano, revealed the brutal formula in a posthumous interview: a combination of household bleach, ammonia, Lux soap flakes, and harsh peroxide that literally burned her scalp during each application. Studio hands reported the distinct chemical odor that followed Harlow through MGM's hallways, with one set designer comparing it to walking past an industrial cleaning closet. What few knew was that Harlow's reluctance toward bathing complicated her already problematic personal fragrance. According to her personal maid, Blanche Williams, Harlow would often go 5 or 6 days without proper bathing, believing that water would ruin her hair color. Instead, she relied heavily on expensive French perfumes to mask her natural body odor. Co-star Clark Gable once quipped privately to director Victor Fleming, "Working with Jean means acting through a cloud," referring to her liberal application of Guerlain's Shalimar. Harlow's third husband, cinematographer Harold Rawson, noted in private letters that her bedsheets required daily changing due to the combination of perfume, body oils, and residual hair chemicals that created a distinctive stain on her pillowcases. MGM wardrobe assistants documented using extra perfuming agents on her costumes between takes, When Harlow died tragically at 26 from kidney failure in 1937, her autopsy revealed significant chemical damage to her hair follicles and scalp tissue, silent testimony to the painful price she paid for the platinum blonde image that made her famous. The ammonia compounds had literally altered the physical structure of her scalp, a sacrifice for stardom few modern celebrities would consider. Rita Hayworth, transforming from Margarita Carmen Cancino into the glamorous Rita Hayworth, required painful physical alterations that contributed to the star's complex relationship with personal care. Few realize that Hayworth's journey to becoming Hollywood's love goddess began with electrolysis treatments to raise her naturally low hairline, an excruciating process requiring hundreds of sessions over several years. This early experience with cosmetic suffering established a pattern where Hayworth prioritized image over comfort throughout her career. Columbia Pictures costume designer Jean Louis documented Hayworth's declining hygiene in the 1950s, noting increasingly erratic bathing habits coinciding with her deteriorating marriage to Orson Welles. Hayworth's drinking escalated dramatically during this period, with her makeup artist Helen Hunt recording over 20 instances where the star arrived on set wearing the previous day's clothing, unwashed and disheveled. By the 1960s, following her failed marriage to Prince Ali Khan, eyewitnesses described concerning episodes where Hayworth appeared disoriented and unkempt at public functions. Director Charles Vidor, who had worked with her on Gilda, encountered her at a Hollywood function in 1966, and later told colleagues he barely recognized the once immaculate star, noting her unwashed hair and stained clothing. What contemporaries mistook for alcoholism's effects was later understood to be early-onset Alzheimer's disease, undiagnosed until 1980. According to her daughter Yasmin Aga Khan's medical testimonies, Hayworth had been battling neurological decline for nearly 20 years before diagnosis, explaining her inability to maintain personal hygiene routines. Medical records from Hayworth's final years at the Shady Rest Care Facility revealed that she required complete assistance with bathing and grooming, the disease having robbed this iconic beauty of even the most basic self-care abilities. The deterioration of her personal hygiene served as a tragic indicator of the neurological disease that remained unrecognized for decades. Frank Sinatra. Emerging from humble beginnings in Hoboken, Frank Sinatra developed an obsession with cleanliness that mystified his contemporaries and earned him the backstage nickname Lady Macbeth. Unlike most entries in our exploration, Sinatra's peculiarity manifested not through neglect, but through extreme, almost pathological fastidiousness. According to his longtime valet George Jacobs, whose 2003 memoir, Mr. S, provided unprecedented insight into the singer's private habits, Sinatra showered up to 8 times daily, sometimes bathing immediately before and after performances despite having not exerted himself physically in any meaningful way. Sinatra's clothing requirements bordered on compulsive, with Jacobs maintaining an inventory of over 300 identical white shirts at any given time. The chairman would wear each shirt exactly once before discarding it, considering them contaminated after a single use. His dresser during the Rat Pack years, Robert Freeman, documented using over 30 gallons of cologne annually to satisfy Sinatra's requirement that his performance suits be lightly sprayed with Bois de Portugal fragrance precisely 7 minutes before he would wear them. This cleanliness fixation extended to his romantic encounters. Actress Angie Dickinson confided to biographer Kitty Kelly that Sinatra would often excuse himself mid-rendezvous to take yet another shower, returning with freshly brushed teeth and reapplied cologne. Even more peculiar were the ritual hand-washings that punctuated his day. His Palm Springs residence was specially retrofitted with 12 sinks located throughout the property to accommodate this habit. The germophobia intensified with age. By the 1980s, Sinatra required all backstage staff to wear white cotton gloves when handling his microphone or instruments. Casino employees at the Golden Nugget reported that Sinatra's dressing room required full sterilization procedures typically reserved for medical facilities. An ironic contrast to the hard-drinking, tough guy image he cultivated throughout his remarkable career. Clark Gable. Despite being crowned the King of Hollywood, Clark Gable harbored a dental secret that plagued co-stars unfortunate enough to film romantic scenes with the iconic actor. By age 32, severe gum disease and neglect had already cost Gable most of his natural teeth, forcing him to wear nearly complete dentures, a closely guarded secret that MGM publicity departments worked tirelessly to conceal from the public. According to Joan Crawford's personal correspondence with director George Cukor, Gable's artificial teeth fit poorly, creating pockets where food particles would decompose for days. Vivien Leigh, his co-star in Gone with the Wind, documented in her private journals the significant challenge of filming their passionate scenes, describing his breath as absolutely dreadful, like something had crawled inside and expired. Production assistant Emily Harkins noted that director Victor Fleming would strategically schedule Gable's romantic scenes for early morning shoots before his breath deteriorated throughout the day. Makeup department head Charles Schramm created a specially formulated mouthwash for Gable containing zinc chloride and carbolic acid, industrial-strength ingredients that provided only temporary relief. The problem stemmed from Gable's notorious negligence regarding his dentures. His houseman, Arthur Stevens, revealed in a 1985 interview that Gable often left his dental appliances in glasses of alcohol rather than proper cleaning solution, believing the whiskey would sterilize them sufficiently. Additionally, Gable's 3-pack-a-day cigarette habit, combined with his fondness for garlic-heavy meals, created what cinematographer James Wong Howe diplomatically called challenging close-up conditions. By the late 1950s, Gable's dental issues had worsened substantially. Carole Lombard's former assistant, Madeline Fields, claimed that studio executives installed specialized ventilation on sets where Gable worked, ostensibly for air quality purposes, but actually designed to mitigate the actor's persistent oral odor, an invisible accommodation for Hollywood royalty, whose charm on screen belied a much less appealing reality for those who worked in close proximity. Marlon Brando. Method acting pioneer. Marlon Brando approached personal hygiene with the same unconventional philosophy that defined his revolutionary performances. According to Elia Kazan, who directed Brando in On the Waterfront, the actor embraced what he called sensory authenticity, believing that manufactured cleanliness detracted from his ability to inhabit working-class characters truthfully. This philosophy manifested in increasingly problematic ways as his career progressed, with Brando refusing to wash costumes during production, insisting that accumulated body odor added character dimensionality to his performances. The Godfather costume designer Anna Hill Johnstone documented Brando's insistence on wearing the same undershirt for 2 consecutive weeks during filming, creating such noticeable odor that cinematographer Gordon Willis requested wider camera angles to increase his physical distance from the actor. Similarly, director Francis Ford Coppola's production notes reveal scheduling adjustments made to accommodate cast members who struggled working in close quarters with Brando during extended dialogue scenes. Rita Moreno, Brando's former romantic partner, described in her autobiography his peculiar bathing habits, noting that he often limited himself to quick, cold water rinses rather than proper bathing, claiming that excessive cleanliness stripped away essential human pheromones necessary for authentic emotional connections. This practice extended to his Mulholland Drive estate, where housekeepers reported that Brando's bedsheets were changed only monthly, despite his request for daily fresh fruit placed directly on his bedding. By the troubled production of Apocalypse Now, Brando's hygiene had deteriorated further. Production assistant Mary Ellen Stewart recalled that the specialized military uniforms created for Colonel Kurtz required quadruple duplication after Brando refused to allow them to be laundered, claiming the accumulating jungle humidity and body odor helped him connect with the character's psychological deterioration. This commitment to authentic sensory experiences, while perhaps contributing to his revolutionary performances, created increasingly difficult working conditions for cast and crew members throughout his later career. Bette Davis. Fearlessly devoted to her craft above all else, Bette Davis approached personal hygiene as yet another element she could manipulate for creative purposes, often to the horror of her colleagues. During the filming of Jezebel in 1938, Davis made the extraordinary decision to forego bathing for the final 2 weeks of production, believing the resulting natural body odor would enhance her portrayal of a woman socially ostracized. Director William Wyler's daily production notes, acquired by film historian Robert Mattson, contain increasingly desperate requests to studio head Jack Warner for shortened shooting days, specifically citing Davis's hygienic experiment. Unlike many stars whose hygiene issues stemmed from personal habits, Davis deliberately weaponized cleanliness, or the lack thereof, as a professional tactic, particularly against co-stars she disliked. Cinematographer Ernest Haller documented an infamous incident during All About Eve, where Davis, feuding with Ann Baxter, arrived on set having applied fish oil to her neck and wrists before their close contact scenes, creating what Haller called an atmosphere of palpable revulsion that Davis believed enhanced the character's tense relationship. Her longtime housekeeper, Henrietta Browning, revealed in a 1989 interview that Davis maintained 2 distinct personal care routines: an immaculate, almost surgical level of cleanliness while preparing for sympathetic characters, contrasted with deliberate hygiene abandonment for antagonistic roles. Before filming Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis reportedly went 4 days without bathing and slept in her costume to achieve what she termed the ripened quality of genuine madness. Most extreme was her preparation for Of Human Bondage, where she not only neglected personal cleanliness, but also rinsed her mouth with a vinegar solution before romantic scenes with Leslie Howard, whom she felt had treated her condescendingly. Howard later complained to director John Cromwell that kissing Davis was like embracing a particularly pungent cheese. For Davis, such complaints merely confirmed her method's effectiveness, personal comfort, both hers and her co-stars, always secondary to capturing emotional authenticity on film. Spencer Tracy. The stark contradiction between Spencer Tracy's polished screen presence and his personal habits left Hollywood insiders baffled throughout his illustrious career. Despite commanding respect as one of MGM's most accomplished actors, Tracy's behind-the-scenes hygiene raised persistent concerns among production personnel. Costume designer Edith Head's meticulous records, unsealed 30 years after her death, revealed that Tracy's suits required daily deodorizing treatments, with industrial-strength solutions typically reserved for theatrical wardrobes after full theatrical runs. Tracy's long-standing alcoholism significantly impacted his personal care routine. During his frequent benders, which could last several days, he would wear the same clothing continuously, creating what director George Cukor diplomatically referred to as atmospheric challenges on set. Makeup artist William Tuttle developed a specialized pre-filming protocol for Tracy that included applying mentholated cream under the actor's nose to mask the smell of alcohol that often emanated from his pores, particularly during morning shoots following difficult nights. Katharine Hepburn, Tracy's longtime companion, employed various strategies to address his hygiene issues. Her personal assistant, Phyllis Wilborn, maintained a log documenting Hepburn's practice of accidentally spilling substances on Tracy's clothing, necessitating changes when direct requests failed. During the filming of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Hepburn arranged for fresh shirts to be delivered to Tracy's dressing room hourly, each delivery accompanied by a different excuse, requiring a wardrobe change. Most revealing were production assistant Thomas Whitaker's accounts of the specially designed Tracy protocol, implemented on his later films. This included strategic scheduling of his scenes in well-ventilated locations, placing industrial air purifiers just outside camera range, and assigning a dedicated staff member to maintain fresh clothing options at all times. These extraordinary accommodations were never acknowledged publicly, with studio publicity continuing to present Tracy as the embodiment of dignified masculinity, an image diametrically opposed to the disheveled, often malodorous reality that co-workers encountered daily on productions throughout his final decades in film. Joan Crawford. The legendary perfectionism that defined Joan Crawford's public image concealed a private relationship with cleanliness that grew increasingly complex as her star power faded. Crawford's former housekeeper, Ethel Smith, revealed in her 1980 memoir, Serving Miss Crawford, that the actress maintained an almost schizophrenic approach to hygiene, insisting on immaculate personal cleanliness while allowing her living spaces to deteriorate into cluttered, unsanitary conditions that shocked visitors granted rare access to her private domains. Crawford's personal bathing rituals bordered on obsessive, often showering up to 4 times daily, using a punishing regimen that included scrubbing her skin with abrasive brushes and finishing with ice water dousing that left her skin raw and reddened. Makeup artist Whitey Snyder recalled applying extra layers of foundation to conceal the resulting irritation before filming. This fixation on bodily cleanliness existed in stark contrast to her increasingly chaotic living environment, particularly after her dismissal from MGM in 1943. By the mid-1950s, Crawford's Brentwood home contained what personal secretary Barbara Mays described as organized squalor, rooms filled with newspapers, magazines, and correspondence dating back decades, creating narrow pathways between precariously stacked possessions. Most concerning were Crawford's kitchen habits. Despite her germophobia regarding her body, she maintained inconsistent food storage practices. Personal chef Margaret Hill documented finding unrefrigerated dairy products and meat left out for days, which Crawford insisted remained perfectly fine, despite clear evidence of spoilage. Crawford's complex relationship with alcohol further complicated matters. During drinking episodes, her exacting standards would temporarily abandon her entirely. Daughter Christina Crawford's controversial memoir, Mommy Dearest, described post-binge scenes where Joan would be discovered sleeping in soiled evening clothes, surrounded by dirty dishes and overflowing ashtrays, environments dramatically at odds with the immaculate image she projected professionally. This duality reached its apex during her final film, Trog, where Crawford arrived on set impeccably groomed while living in a home that, according to her final housekeeper, required professional biohazard cleaning after her death in 1977. Errol Flynn. The swashbuckling charm that made Errol Flynn a matinee idol masked hygiene habits so problematic they eventually required contractual intervention from Warner Brothers Studio. Flynn's approach to personal cleanliness reflected his adventurous off-screen lifestyle, cavalier, inconsistent, and increasingly troublesome as his legendary carousing intensified. According to Flynn's personal valet, Robert Fletcher, the actor considered bathing optional rather than essential, sometimes going full production weeks during the adventures of Robin Hood without proper bathing, despite the physically demanding nature of his role. Flynn's co-star, Olivia de Havilland, privately complained to director Michael Curtis about the maritime atmosphere that accompanied Flynn on set, referring to an unmistakable blend of body odor, alcohol seepage, and the lingering scent of the actor's perpetually unwashed hair. Costume department records indicate that Flynn's wardrobe required special treatments with potassium permanganate solutions, a powerful deodorizing agent typically used for medical purposes, before they could be handled by cleaning staff. The situation deteriorated as Flynn's notorious drinking and substance use escalated. Makeup artist Percy Westmore developed a specialized pre-filming routine for Flynn that included applying eucalyptus-infused foundation to mask what he clinically termed excessive dermal bacteria emissions around the actor's hairline and neck. By 1941, Warner Brothers inserted a rarely disclosed hygiene clause into Flynn's contract, requiring mandatory bathing within 4 hours of scheduled filming, a stipulation apparently frequently ignored based on director Raoul Walsh's production notes from They Died with Their Boots On. Perhaps most revealing were the accommodations made during Flynn's romantic scenes. Actress Eleanor Parker recalled in a 1985 interview that female leads were offered hazard pay, informally called Flynn compensation, of an additional $75 per day for kissing scenes with the actor due to his chronic halitosis and body odor. Despite these issues, Flynn's roguish charm and undeniable screen presence continued to captivate audiences, proving that Hollywood glamour often had little connection to physical reality behind the scenes. Katharine Hepburn. The fiercely independent spirit that made Katharine Hepburn a Hollywood maverick extended to unconventional personal habits that defied the glamorous standards expected of female stars. Unlike most hygiene-challenged celebrities, whose issues stemmed from neglect, Hepburn's approach was deliberate, a philosophical rejection of what she considered frivolous beauty standards. Production notes from The Philadelphia Story reveal director George Cukor's frustration with Hepburn's refusal to use commercial deodorants, which she dismissed as chemical nonsense, instead relying on frequent costume changes to address perspiration issues during filming. Hepburn's daily regimen, documented by her longtime housekeeper Emma Faust, included dawn ice-cold showers lasting less than 2 minutes, a practice she maintained into her 80s, believing it toughened both character and skin. This minimalist approach extended to her refusal to use conventional soaps, preferring a homemade concoction of vinegar, lemon juice, and egg whites that created what costume designer Edith Head diplomatically called a distinctive personal fragrance. By the mid-1950s, Crawford's Brentwood home contained what personal secretary Barbara Mays described as organized squalor, rooms filled with newspapers, magazines, and correspondence dating back decades, creating narrow pathways between precariously stacked possessions. Most concerning were Crawford's kitchen habits. Despite her germophobia regarding her body, she maintained inconsistent food storage practices. Personal chef Margaret Hill documented finding unrefrigerated dairy products and meat left out for days, which Crawford insisted remained perfectly fine, despite clear evidence of spoilage. Crawford's complex relationship with alcohol further complicated matters. During drinking episodes, her exacting standards would temporarily abandon her entirely. Daughter Christina Crawford's controversial memoir, Mommy Dearest, described post-binge scenes where Joan would be discovered sleeping in soiled evening clothes, surrounded by dirty dishes and overflowing ashtrays, environments dramatically at odds with the immaculate image she projected professionally. This duality reached its apex during her final film, Trog, where Crawford arrived on set impeccably groomed while living in a home that, according to her final housekeeper, required professional biohazard cleaning after her death in 1977. Her rejection of mainstream hygiene products became more pronounced as her career progressed. During the filming of The African Queen, director John Huston's daily logs note that while the entire crew suffered from dysentery during the arduous Congo shoot, Hepburn remained unaffected, a condition she attributed to her unsanitized immune system, strengthened by her lifelong avoidance of antibacterial products. Co-star Humphrey Bogart remarked that Hepburn seemed perfectly adapted to jungle conditions, requiring far fewer personal comfort accommodations than other cast members. Most revealing was Hepburn's absolute rejection of makeup outside professional requirements, a practice virtually unheard of among female stars of her era. Her personal physician, Dr. Samuel Hirschfeld, recorded that by her 60s, Hepburn's skin showed remarkably little damage compared to contemporaries, possibly validating her minimalist skincare approach. While other actresses spent hours daily maintaining elaborate beauty routines, Hepburn's entire morning regimen reportedly lasted under 10 minutes, a practical efficiency that reflected her no-nonsense New England upbringing and lifelong disdain for Hollywood's artificial standards of femininity. James Dean. The rebellious mystique that made James Dean a cultural icon was partially fueled by his calculated rejection of conventional hygiene standards, a physical manifestation of his anti-establishment philosophy that both attracted and repelled those in his orbit. Unlike many stars whose hygiene issues resulted from neglect or psychological challenges, Dean's approach to personal cleanliness was a deliberate performance choice, according to Rebel Without a Cause director Nicholas Ray's extensive production diaries. Dean believed his unwashed appearance and natural body odor created an authentic sensory dimension to his characterization of troubled youth. Costume designer Moss Mabry documented Dean's insistence on wearing the same red jacket for 21 consecutive days during filming, refusing dry cleaning despite the garment developing visible stains and what Mabry clinically noted as biological residue accumulation. Similarly, hairstylist Sidney Gilleroff recalled Dean's absolute prohibition against washing his hair during production, insisting that the natural oils and urban grime accumulating in his signature hairstyle enhanced his character's authenticity. Dean's method-driven approach sometimes created tensions with co-stars. Natalie Wood's personal correspondence revealed her request to director Ray that certain intimate scenes be filmed early in production days, before Dean's deliberately cultivated body odor intensified under hot studio lights. Likewise, Sal Mineo's private journals referenced the olfactory challenge of working in close quarters with Dean, though he conceded the sensory reality created undeniable emotional urgency in their scenes together. Perhaps most indicative of Dean's calculated relationship with hygiene was a revelation from his friend and photographer Dennis Stock, who observed Dean maintaining two distinct personal care routines. His unwashed, unkempt public persona contrasted with a private regimen that included designer cologne and meticulous grooming when not actively cultivating his rebellious image. This duality suggests Dean's hygiene choices represented less personal preference than conscious brand building, transforming what might be considered neglect into a revolutionary artistic statement that helped cement his status as cinema's original teenage rebel. If you found these behind-the-scenes truths as fascinating as we did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Share it with fellow classic film lovers who think they know everything about old Hollywood. And maybe surprise them. And hey, if you love peeling back the curtain on the golden age of cinema, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next reel.